All right, it is time to huddle up. Bob Slovak here with the Constant Pro Jason Alexander. We are on location right now. Tell us where we're at, Jason.
We are at Carlton Woods Ladies Carlton Cup, Angels and Goddesses. I'm one of the captains for the Angels. The ladies are out there waging war right now. We're going to crown a champion. Somebody's going to jump in the lake here in a couple hours, Bob. It's going to be a little chilly in there, but I think I might take the dive here shortly.
Oh, man, I want to see that if that happens. We're right here by the fire pit here. We'll show it to you here in a second, but we're keeping warm out here right off 18 here at Carlton Woods. All right, let's talk about what we got going headlines on Huddle Up today. Of course, the Astros bowed out this weekend. They just kind of ran out of steam. You know, the bats just kind of went silent, and they couldn't rebound from that.
They tried and tried and tried. I thought that what a big win in Atlanta to get it back to Houston. And it's like we spent all our emotional coins, our emotional money in Atlanta just to get it back to H-Town. We didn't have enough, obviously, in Game 6. Disappointing way to end the year. But what a heck of a run the Stros have had. It was a lot of fun for us to watch and a good run through the playoffs.
It was a good run, and I love the fact that it was Astros against everybody, and that kind of fueled them throughout the year. But when it came down to it, the better team did win. The Braves got hot. You see that a lot in the playoffs. They weren't the favorites to win, but they got hot, and they ran through the Giants. They ran through the Dodgers, then the Astros, and so, yeah.
You could see it in the Dodgers series. They gained so much confidence beating L.A., and I think going into the Stros series, they were the favorites. Even though the Astros were on paper, I was very worried about it going in, and it just kind of came to fruition.
Yeah, when Lance McCullers couldn't go, we knew they were going to be in a little bit of trouble, and they did. And then when the bats couldn't come around, and all right, so now we hit free agency. Carlos Correa, from everything he said, he's saying goodbye is what he's saying. So I think he's going to be gone.
We were lucky to have him since 2012. What a great career as an Astro, and best of luck to him. It will say in his future endeavors, look out for the Detroit Tigers and old A.J. Hinch. They got a little money to spend in Detroit.
You know what? The thing about Correa, we don't know where he's going to land, but, man, I keep hearing the Rangers. I'm hearing the Rangers are going to make a run for him. I'm like, ugh.
A-Rod, too. A-Rod, too. Don't go to Texas. Don't go to the Rangers. Come on, Carlos.
You know what? All right, we'll see what happens. I got a great conversation with Phil Garner, former Astros manager. That's coming up in our second segment. He has a lot of great insight on what happened this year with the Astros and about Carlos, so we got that coming up. All right, switching gears to the Texans. No trade of Deshaun Watson, which I think is a good thing. I mean, they couldn't trade him because of the civil lawsuits that are out there, but don't get less value for him. Let's wait and let it iron itself out.
Let's wait till March, April before the draft. We're going to move him. Some teams really going to want him. We're going to get our 3 ones that we want out of this trade. No reason to do it right now. I think a great decision by the brass for the Texans to just press the pause button, call 22nd timeout, and let's wait a few months.
They got the Dolphins this week. Tyrod Taylor back in the saddle. I'm picking the Texans win.
Tyrod time back, baby, in Miami. The Dolphins are terrible. I'm not sold on Tua. And I will say this, what a magical cover from the Houston Texans, scoring 22 unanswered. Did I have the Rams? I did. Unbelievable bad beat, but good. Hey, kudos to Davis Mills. They showed a little energy, showed a little spark there in the fourth quarter at Reliance Stadium. And I look out. I think the Texans might get win number 2 here in Miami with Tyrod back in the starting lineup.
It'll be fun. It'll be interesting to watch for sure. So we got more NFL talk coming up with Spencer Tillman from ABC 13 Inside the Game and college football on Fox. So we're going to talk. He's got some great insight about college football. I asked him a number of questions. The first rankings of the playoffs on over at UT. They're just 4-4. He's got different insight that you haven't heard before. So that's coming up.
They're not going to be bowl eligible, Bob.
No, they're not. No, they're not. So we got all that coming up. We're going to talk more. So, hey, we're here at Carlton Woods. A little bit chilly, but they're playing golf out here, having some fun. We got the pros picks coming up at the end of the show. You don't want to miss that. So stick around. More Huddle Up right after this.
All right, team, your favorite pro here. Now, look, we all know our Huddle Up fans now. We like our cars, but we also want a hometown discount, too. And lucky for us, all we need to do is make a short drive up I-45 North to Cowboy Kia. And lucky for us today,
right here out there, Webb. There's Jason Huddle Up.
We've got Mark Compton and Mark Webb here with us to tell a little bit more about Cowboy Kia.
Welcome. Hey, this is Mark Compton at Cowboy Kia. I got a few things for you. They need to come in, bring a friend, shake a hand, make a deal, but I got $500 off for Huddle Up.
Huddle Up.
Huddle Up. Huddle Up. Jason Alexander, $500 off. Black's House Service, Blue Jean Friendly.
That a baby. Now look, we've got the best in used and new cars here at Cowboy Kia.
Cowboy, baby.
Mark Webb's going to give you 2 free college football winners. Mark Compton's going to give you the best deal in town. Come visit him today.
Sitting fireside here at Carlton Woods, man, keeping it warm. Welcome back to Huddle Up. Bob Slovak with the consummate pro, Jason Alexander. Phil Garner, he's a member out here. He plays a little.
He is, and I'm telling you, a wonderful player. I always love telling this story. Back in 2007, I had just gotten here, assistant pro, and old Scrap Iron and I went out to Pebble Beach. He was part of our Pro-Am team. We won. I got to hear all these wonderful stories, and I've been a big Phil Garner fan since I was a kid, and to get to know him a little bit out here at Carlton Woods is a pretty special deal. And I'm telling you, for his advanced age, which I like to say, he can still move that golf ball pretty good.
I know he can. So much baseball knowledge, man. I really enjoyed catching up with him. He invited me over to his house out here at Carlton Woods. Spoke to him this morning. Of course, we talked a lot of Astros. Here's Phil Garner.
So it hooks up right to my Facebook. Okay. All right. Ready to huddle up with Phil Garner, former Astros manager, big league player. And Phil, let me just get your first impressions on what you saw with the Astros this year.
Well, I have to be excited because I didn't think they were going to get as far as they did. As a matter of fact, I didn't think we'd get in the playoffs. So anything beyond that was a plus. I didn't think our pitching was going to be strong enough from top to bottom. Our offense proved to be exceptional, and I think it carried us a long way. And then we had some surprises in the pitching staff. And unfortunately, we were one of those teams down the stretch that we were hot one day and could be totally cold the next, and that got us in the end. We just couldn't steady it out and have a more consistent approach during the World Series. But we got there. It's exciting, and it's awful hard to get to the World Series. And it's disappointing not to win. But when the season starts, you say, "Oh, good Lord, just let me get to the World Series. I'll be happy." But when you get there, you say, "Oh, good Lord, let me win it. I'll just be happy."
What I saw with the Astros this year, and you mentioned you didn't think they'd make the playoffs, and a lot of people said they had the team to do it, but it was the us against everybody attitude they had. I mean, because they were just getting piled on, and it made them play better.
Well, I think so. And, boy, you're absolutely right. I've never understood this. There were a lot of teams that were cheating. And this is not to take away from the Astros and what they did. They deserve to get thumped for cheating. They shouldn't have done that. Number one, Altuve did not cheat. And it's disappointing that he's become the poster child of this and everybody boos him. Maybe it's because he's the leadoff hitter or what, but I hate that for him because he's the guy that got me back interested in baseball. He's just such an exciting player to watch play. So I hate that for him. So it was us against the world, all those T-shirts around going, Astros against the world, this kind of. I thought that was pretty cool. But I also thought it was brilliant. I just absolutely thought it was so brilliant that it ended up being in Atlanta. And my political bent doesn't matter. But I thought it was so stupid on baseball's part to move the All-Star game in the first place. We're not in the business of politics. We're in the business of baseball, entertainment. Don't get into all that, regardless of how you feel about it. So I thought that was an ironic twist of fate.
It was, and sometimes that's how the baseball gods, as they say, work things out. So as you said, now they got to the World Series, the pitching, they had the injuries and the pitching staff, and it just wasn't there. But really, you mentioned it, the hitting, they just went cold, and you can't do it.
Yeah, well, you're still going to have to score some runs. You're still going to have to put something on the plate, and we couldn't generate any sustainable life with our bats. Unfortunately, I don't think Bregman ever came back from his injury. He never looked comfortable when he came back to me. And I don't think Brantley did either, really, even though Brantley was getting his hits. That's the kind of player he is. He was getting his hits, but they weren't the same, striking the ball like he was. And, of course, Alvarez went cold. And so we couldn't get anything going. We couldn't get anything in the game going. And that's when you're in a team slump. When you swing at pitches, instead of fouling off the pitcher's pitch, you hit them fair, and then you miss your pitch down the middle. And that's what they did. They hit their pitches down the middle. We made a bunch of those mistakes, but they fouled off the good pitches we made. And that flip is when you know that you're playing with great confidence. With the hitters are hitting with great confidence. And when you're not doing that, then in the back of your mind, the hitters are struggling a little bit.
Has that home run that Solar hits come down yet? I've never seen a rocket like that.
Well, we got away with a couple of misses in that at bat, and you can't keep throwing him in the middle of the plate. He's got a lot of holes, but not in the middle of the plate belt high, and he hit that a long way. Yeah.
He didn't just clear the tracks; he soared over the track.
Yeah, I did.
All right, so now we're in the off season. There's free agents. I think they have 6 total, but the biggest one's Carlos Correa. Who I don't know. How do you play this? I mean, from everything he said, it sounds like he's ready to move on, and somebody's going to offer him a whole lot of money.
Yeah, I think his agent is Boris, and as far as I know, now this is when I was in the game. Boris never had a Type A free agent like Correa that ever stayed with with his team. So don't count on it if I'm right about Boris being his agent. So, but what he's also said, he's always said, well, the Astros have been good to me. Well, that sounds like a goodbye note to me.
Yeah.
So I hate to see it. He's terrific to watch defensively. I think there's better offensive shortstops out there right now, but he's plenty good enough, but terrific defensive player. God bless him. I've always been one for, guys getting whatever they can get in the open market. And that's just why we have free agents, see what it can get. But I think we're going to have to say goodbye to Carlos.
Yeah, I think we are too. Now you had some great leaders on your team in Bagwell and Biggio when you were managing here, but Carlos really stepped up to be the vocal leader, the non-vocal leader. That's going to be hard to replace.
That the modern day, some of the modern day GMs don't think leadership matters. They've gotten so involved into this sabermetrics thing that they don't believe that leadership in the clubhouse really matters. But AJ Hinch told me when Carlos first came into the big league clubhouse, he said there was a difference. He said he was the alpha dog right away, and you knew he was going to be the alpha dog. And I believe, anytime you manage, that leadership in the clubhouse matters. The big guy that can step up, and everybody else kind of watches him when he's in the clubhouse. They follow him when he's on the field. And Carlos has been all that. But this is an opportunity for somebody else to step up. And we don't know what we might do in the free agent market, and we don't know what we might call them. We've been pretty good at bringing some pretty good players up in the minor leagues. So maybe there's another Carlos Correa sitting down there.
That's true, man. They've got a good pipeline going, so hopefully they'll keep it going.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts. Is the window closing, or do they still have a little bit of a window left?
Well, there's always, for me, it's difficult to continue. The old Baltimore, when they were winning world champions, and then they'd have a couple of year layoff and then come back and be back in the World Series again. I think it's really hard to do in today's market. Free agents, it's hard to keep the teams together. I remember a couple of years ago, I thought Kansas City was built to be a pretty good ball club for several years. 2 years later, they can't even get out of last place. So it's really hard to do in this modern world. I hesitate to say, because I thought we weren't going to get to playoffs this year. And let's face it, in 2004, I thought that was our best team. 2004, when I came in to manage. 2005, I did not think that was our best team, and we get to the World Series. So don't go out and bet against the Astros. I wouldn't do that right now. But I would say that I'm not as optimistic as I was, but I'm not gonna turn pessimistic just yet.
I think I'm with you on that. They're going to have to pick up some big free agents. Going to have to get some arms, a couple more bats. I mean, but that's what free agency is about. We'll see what happens.
That's good, and we have some. If Carlos does leave, that'll be a hole. We'll have to fill that hole. And yes, our pitching. Verlander's gone. Greinke's probably gone. Yeah. That frees up a lot of money to go back into the free agent market. So there's somebody out there that we probably could go. And let's face it, Jim Crane's shown his willingness to spend some money if he finds the right guy. So if he gets something that he thinks will fit, I think he'll do something. I'm not thinking that he's thinking in terms of total rebuilding, but we'll see.
I saw this on Twitter a while ago, and it kind of sums it up for a lot of baseball fans. 148 days until opening day.
Well, I have some really close friends out here that are big baseball aficionados, and they've gone into depression mode right now. They said exactly that, 148 days until we get baseball again.
I didn't know what to watch last night. I'm not a big basketball fan. I'm flicking around looking for something to watch. So.
Well, I did the same thing, and I settled on Outlaw Josie Wells because I wanted to see somebody get shot.
I can't lose with that. Yeah. All right, Phil Garner, thanks for joining us here on Huddle Up. Always fun to catch up with you.
All right, good. All right, Bob.
Always good catching up with Scrap Iron, Phil Garner.
Absolutely the best. Oh, Scrap Iron. Best mustache in the business.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. All right. Hey, more of a Huddle Up coming up next. Hey, we're going to talk with Spencer Tillman, get his insights on college football and what's going on with the Texans. That's coming up next right here on Huddle Up.
Okay, team, look, calling a 20-second timeout to give you a hot take from the consummate pro on why everybody needs their own private golf cart, whether it's cruising around the neighborhood with a beverage of choice, living in a gated community, a vacation home, the golf course, And at the end of the day, chicks just dig it. Come down to Conroe Golf Cars, and oh my goodness, look here. We've got City Councilman Kurt Maddox here to tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, hey, Jason, my fellow lumberjack. Hey, not only am I the city councilman, also VP of Conroe Golf Cars. We've been here since 1974 and glad to have you. We sell them, we rent them, we build them. So we can do whatever you want. Everybody walks in here and says, hey, let me see your new car, your used car product. I said, well, these are all our used cars. So we start from the ground up, Jason. We take the cars in on trade, clean them up, put new batteries, lift them, do whatever. We call it a little cocktail cart or just a fun cart, recreational cart. So you can either buy it, rent it, or do whatever you want.
Kurt, I love it, and I'm going to tell you what. Listen to Kurt Maddox and the Consummate Pro. Come out and visit us here at Conroe Golf Cars today.
All right, back here at Carlton Woods, we're getting a little taste of winter here today.
I'll tell you, a little more than a taste. A good spoonful today, but like you said, this weekend back to a little springtime.
Springtime back here. All right, back here at Huddle Up. We're going to talk some football. I had a chance to catch up my good friend Spencer Tillman. Now, Spencer does a lot of stuff because he's college football on Fox, Inside the Game on ABC 13. A lot of great insight from Spencer Tillman. Here's Spence.
All right, Spencer Tillman from Fox Sports, and you also see him on ABC 13 doing the Texan Show on Sunday night. Spence, good to see you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, I'll jump right in with this. I want to talk college football with you first here on Huddle Up. The first playoff rankings came out. A lot of surprises to me. I don't know how undefeated Oklahoma's down at 8. I don't know how undefeated Cincinnati's not in the top 4. Your impressions of the first rankings?
It's garbage, man. Listen, we can talk about this ad nauseum, but the bottom line is sport mirrors what happens in the broader context of society. And when you have these structural constructs, whether it's the NCAA or whether it's institutions and broader society, they're going to reflect what is in their best interest. And just like in 2014, when on that final weekend, Ohio State leapfrogs Baylor and TCU, who had performed admirably all year long, that was all about the establishment. That was all about the blue blood institution having the cachet and the history to make that leapfrog. And if you were Baylor or TCU at that point in time, you couldn't really argue. I mean, you could gnash your teeth if you were a fan, but ultimately the fact that Ohio State was going to win out. So what you saw this in this first iteration of the polls, by the committee, a bunch of folks who it seems like entropy is setting in. Each year you get far and farther away from people who are credible enough to even be on that. I mean, we went from having some elite people on there, and I didn't even mind the Condoleezza Rice's being on there. At least it brought some credibility as far as Stanford is concerned from an academic standpoint. And I get why you want those people on there, but ultimately it's about the integrity of the game, and they really screwed it up this time. I mean, so I'm embarrassed for them, but it's nothing that's uncommon.
So let me ask you this. If Oklahoma wins the Big 12 and they're undefeated, they have to be in, right?
No, they don't have to be in. Not if that defense. I mean, if something happens to their defense worse than already has happened. I mean, I said on the air last week that I thought Oklahoma State was the best team in the Big 12 because of what Jim Knowles has done with their defense. He's been phenomenal. He's got two of the elite inside linebackers, athletic guys that can run and chase. They're mature on defense. And for the first time ever, it seems like Mike Gundy has gotten to the point where he's reconciled himself. It doesn't matter that he's a former quarterback and, airing it out and came from the Mike Leach tree and the air raid and all that other stuff. This guy's saying, let's win. Let's play complementary football in the strictest sense of the definition. And he found himself an excellent runner, got established a physical identity on offense, and they can still throw it vertically when they need to do it. But, their quarterback is a mobile guy, dual threat. And they're running the ball. That's how they're winning, running and defense. Guess what? That's old school. So I think that Oklahoma is behind them. They may even be behind Iowa State as far as I'm concerned right now. They just are not an elite defense. And I don't care what anybody says, even though we're in a spread error, you got to win with elite defense. Once you get out of that cul-de-sac of the Big 12 conference, you're going to run into the SEC types, man. And if you can't play defense, you're not going to win.
Cincinnati, they still got SMU on their schedule. Then they probably match up against U of H in the conference championship, wouldn't they? And say they go undefeated. You know, they're still not Power 5. Do they get in?
Well, listen, I mean, they are years removed and benefit from what Appalachian State did way back in the 90s, right, when they upset Michigan. And they were such an outlier, no one really thought it was a legitimate win. They just thought it was a quote-unquote upset in the strictest sense of the definition. But Cincinnati, man, if you looked at Cincinnati can play with anybody in the country.
Yeah,
they're just a great team, man. Well coached. I don't know how long he's going to be there, but I just think Coach Fickle is one of the best in the business. They deserve to be where they are. They've earned every bit of it.
Definitely. I mentioned U of H. Dana kind of got it going. They were beating some subpar teams, but the big win against SMU, he's got something going on now.
That was huge. I mean, because the cat's meow right now in the Dallas area. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody, including TCU. I know they've had their struggles, but if I'm looking at Baylor, is doing a great job with Coach Aranda. But I would say in that Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think SMU was playing as good a football as anybody. I mean, they could make an argument that they were the best team, in that region, in the state for that matter at one point in time until U of H ran into them. So I think that they're legitimate, and I think that's a notch that Dana can hang in his belt. And it speaks to his credibility. So, I wasn't quite sure if Dana was going to get it back on track, but, man, that win impressed me.
Did. And I don't know what SMU was thinking about kicking it deep, but they did. They did. Yeah. Hey, real quick, your thoughts about what's going on over there in Austin with Coach Sark?
You know what? Here, I'm working on something right now, and this is, and I appreciate you asking the question because it's important, Bob. And I know you've been around the game a long time, and just are a great friend and just credible in its strictest sense. I've been thinking about this a long time. I've interviewed a lot of coaches over the years. You don't fire a guy who's won 70% of his games. I'm talking about Gary Patterson now, and I'm getting to Sark, which is what you asked the question about. You don't fire a coach like that unless there's another mitigating reason behind it. Now, the same reason that Gary Patterson is dealing with what he's dealing with up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is not the same thing that Sark is dealing with directly, because Sark came in after that was established. But this issue of race and dealing with issues relative to how it motivates players, whether it's the Eyes of Texas song and the history that was connected with that, or Gary Patterson's run in almost 2 years ago now, and how he managed that situation. It was a tough one because he and I had a face-to-face conversation about it, and we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I think he's a little bit antiquated in the way he approaches certain things. And without putting him out there necessarily, I'll keep the conversation private amongst ourselves. I just don't see anybody in their right mind that would fire a coach who's won nearly 70% of their games for nothing. Now, Sark is dealing with the remnant and the residue of that tension. He's a great offensive mind. People will use that and say, I'm coming to Texas no matter what. But I'm telling you, floating in the background is that specter of about 78% of those players that are on that squad about the tradition, about what it means to be a Texas Longhorn. They're dealing and wrestling with that. I can say that now, not from a speculative sports announcer standpoint, but I have parents that call me. And again, I have to walk with great balance on that whole deal because, obviously I'm an OU graduate and I never would ever do anything to compromise me in that regard or speak ill of Texas or anyone. That's just totally unethical. That never would happen. They're coming to me, asking me, what do I think as a professional? What would it mean to go to TCU, or what would it mean to go to Texas right now in the climate that we're in? And like I said, it's a totally different thing, but it is related. What Sark is dealing with and what Gary Patterson dealt with. It is about the emotions of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And when you get a narrative in their mindset about what they represent, let me tell you something. They're all about images and impression. Everything they do, from their clothes, from their culture, everything that the 78% that I'm talking about, they're about images and impression. And when they get the impression in their mind that they're not working for a cause that supports them, you're not going to get 100% from them. That's the bottom line. And ultimately how it manifests itself is in wins and losses. That's the ultimate determinant. So anyway, didn't mean to drone on about it, but you raise a very, very germane, relevant question that most people aren't interested in tackling. or have no clue is really the real issue.
That was well said. Well said. And a lot of people don't think about it in those terms.
Yep.
And when you get down to it, that's where it's at.
Yep.
What game you calling this week?
I've got TCU and Baylor.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. Got
How about that?
There you go. How about that? Hey, let's switch gears now. Talk NFL. The Texans don't move Deshaun Watson. I kind of think that was expected. Why do it now? And there's still so much things circling around it. Just your thoughts on that. I mean, it's eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
Does he end up in Miami?
I don't know if Miami is the place. I would say that of the two. First of all, it takes 3 to tango in the NFL if you're doing trades. I know it takes 2 in traditional situations, but when you're talking about leverage and negotiating, you got to have a third party because that's the trigger. That's the catalytic piece you got to have. And Carolina was that catalytic piece for a minute. But man, when you start to unpack their history and everything they're about and why you have the current ownership that you have there now because of what happened with the previous ownership, the last thing in the world you need to do if you're part of that administration is bring up talent. I don't care how talented he is, a quarterback that's got 22 civil lawsuits hanging over his head because of the related issue that's at hand, the allegations and the nature of them. That's how Carolina got in the mess that they were in. And so for them to ignore that and show the hubris that a lot of people think the NFL represents anyway would be the height of hubris and ignorance. And I just didn't see that happening. I said that much on air last week on Inside the Game. So I think that what happened or did not happen was expected, as you pointed out. I'm not shocked at all by it. If you pull that trigger right now with so much uncertainty, you're a fool in the National Football League. And I know that doesn't help the Texans or anybody else trying to move a marquee player. But the ultimate narrative here is who's going to be willing and stupid enough to make that move right now with so much uncertainty with those 22 cases.
Exactly. Nobody wanted to do it on the Texans didn't want to do it because they want maximum value, and the other teams, they didn't want to take on the baggage right now.
That's right.
Nick, this is a rebuild, and it's a rebuild. Yeah. Rebuilds are hard, man. Sometimes you got to break it down to the rock bottom before you build it back up. Do you like the direction Nick Caserio's got this team going?
Yeah, and I think that Nick, is playing it close to the vest on a lot of things, and I think that's okay. But I think a narrative needs to get out there to explain to the average fan, Joe Sixpack, exactly what's taking place. There was an inflection point. You're absolutely right. It is clearly a rebuild now, but there was an inflection point. That's the reason why you started unloading, the higher marquee guys that have been around here a long time, right? And so you let those people go because now it's clear you're not going to be competitive, right? If you're not going to be in the playoffs, why keep those older guys on? Why keep those guys that are making max dollars on? Why keep them there? You said, well, you got to pay them anyway because they're past that guaranteed threshold. Well, you can, but then you've got a notch in your belt. You can say, look, we treated our guys fairly, more than fairly. When you start letting 10 and 9-year, 11-year veterans go and knowing you got to pay them fully, but you basically let them off for a year, even if they land with another team, nobody can fault you and say that you're cheating players, So I think that ultimately it's a tough spot and it was left for him to deal with. And it just was not an enviable place to be if you're Nick Caserio. But, if you like challenges, I always say, if you willfully accept those challenges, you trigger a totally different motivational apparatus as opposed to being pulled into something that you have no control over. You have to willfully accept a challenge like this. And I think when you do that, you have the best preferred outcome you can possibly have. So
we've got quite a battle stacking up in the NFC. Just kind of moving on. I've never seen it so stacked in my in years. Packers, Cowboys, Rams, Bucks, Cardinals. Throw the Saints into that mix now. It's going to be hard to see who comes out of that. I do want to touch on the hot topic of the day real quick. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers. Did he lie? Did he not lie? What was he saying back in August? And now he came positive test with COVID, so he's out. Just your thoughts on that.
Listen, man, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out where these guys are coming from. And again, I'm probably not coming from I'm not going to say fair because I think I'm definitely informed on the issue. As a board member of Methodist Hospital, here in Houston, I get dash reports twice a day, and I read through those things. They're full of copious data points in it, and I'm well versed on what the virus is and what it's not. And I don't come from a political place. I'm telling you, if you're not vaccinated, if you don't see the merit and the efficacy in doing this, and I'm not judging anyone. I understand why someone would think that it's not enough. I think the value of knowing, if you're educated, the upshot of having been vaccinated is far outweighs the negative side of it. If you understand, vaccines have a long, rich tradition in history, and that we've taken them. I guarantee you, Aaron Rodgers has taken them before for other things like, you know, smallpox and just the whole array, flu, all that other stuff. So I don't understand these guys, man. I just don't get it. It's selfish in the strictest sense of the definition. You hear players talking about, you know, being a team guy. To me, that's the height of it. You know, I had an accountant sit maybe 2 feet in front of me, and it gave them plenty of opportunity to tell me that, hey, look, I'm not vaccinated. I came with my mask on, whole 9 yards, and knew we were going to be in there for 2 hours pounding out some stuff. And this is someone I've been with for 20 plus years, man. And after I eventually asked them, hey, look, do you mind telling me your status? And they said, well, I just not comfortable with doing it. And I said, well, I'm glad that you finally decided to tell me that. I mean, I knew I was inoculated or vaccinated and everything, but the net of that conversation was they owed me some paperwork afterwards, Bob. And then about 3 weeks went past, and they didn't get the paperwork to me. But when they finally did, I just called them up and said, hey, look, you know, I needed this document, so and so and so. They said, well, I'm sorry, I was out with COVID for the last week and 2 weeks. And I was saying, I said, you know, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, and still doesn't even think to pick up the phone and call me, you know? And see, I was outside the window, so that was a moot point. But that's my point. How selfish can you be in those situations? And so, anyway, man, I don't understand it. I mean, I know it was a long, drawn-out question. I mean, response to your question. But, Bob, I don't have the answer, man. I just don't have it.
I just think the weird thought about it was he says he was immunized, and I go, what does that mean? Like he was using some kind of alternative vaccine, and I didn't get the whole back and forth. But we'll see where it goes. He's not playing this week, and that's going to make a difference because they're playing the Chiefs, which brings up my next question. Do the Chiefs get on a roll here and make the playoffs? I mean, it's a long season. It's a long season.
It still is a long season. I tell you what, though, man. Offense is funky. Sometimes it's hard to get that chemistry back when you have mission-critical people missing at running back, or, you know, with Edwards-Helaire, his injury, his status. I mean, they've got other parts that they can win with, and anytime you got a quarterback like Mahomes, you can mitigate the risk. But I don't know. I think flipping that switch is a lot tougher than it is at this point than it was, say, 15 years ago when you could still have remnants of dynasties hanging around. I think it's going to, for the reason you mentioned, the depth of it. I mean, that's what the late Pete Rozelle had in mind when he uttered that phrase, any given Sunday, Bob. You know, he wanted for any team to be able to beat another team any given week. And, boy, if the NFC is in a reflection of that right now, I don't know what is. I mean, it's pretty strong. It's entertaining, actually.
It's very entertaining. So, you know, what are we, week 9 now? Week 9, we got almost half the season still left. Mm-hmm. Who wins the NFC? Who comes out of that?
You know what? I'm going to say Arizona does. I mean,
really?
Here's why I think that. I look and say, okay, look, it's kind of jarring when you see that JJ is going to be out and all that. But, you know, they were already missing 2 key parts and still were a dominant team with him, you know, or without him. So they've got a lot of offense, man. They got a lot of weapons. And if you can score and we've reached the point in the National Football League where it's even challenging the old edict of defense wins championship. I think if my math is still correct, of the 50 plus Super Bowls that we've had, only 5 times has the lower rated defensive team won. That means you can have an average offense and still win a Super Bowl, but you can't have an average defense. So when you start looking at teams who did well in Super Bowls, even the old 49er teams that I played on, everybody knew the Montanas, the Rices, and all that. But we had Charles Hayden. We had a great defense. We had the second-rate defense in the league. And and there's only been exceptions like those Raiders that threw it a lot vertically in the 80s. And I think maybe one other one may have been Miami one year when they had Marino. But outside of that, you're not going to find teams with weak defenses winning championship. So who are the teams out there that show me good, solid, consistent defensive play? And the offense is going to take care of itself. And I think Arizona's on par with anybody. Kyler Murray's their signal caller. So I'm looking at Arizona, man. I like them a lot.
You know who else has a really, really good defense for a change?
Who's that?
The Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
Got a really good defense.
Sneaky good. Yeah.
That's what gets me excited about the Cowboys. Because before their defense wasn't any good. But now, I mean, you look at it and they're going to get some people back. I'm like, they got a good defense, and we know their offense is going to run. So wouldn't that be a good NFC Championship game, Cowboys Cardinals?
Old school, man, huh? Right?
All right, Spencer, man, thank you so much for your time today, man. Baylor TCU, man, we'll be checking out. What time's kickoff?
I think it's 2:30, 3 o'clock, something like that, afternoon in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Man, it's going to be beautiful weather too, man. It's going to be a good game. Going to be a good game. All right, Spencer, you be safe, man. Thank you so much for joining me here on Huddle Up, man. We'll be talking
Always
to you.
good to see you, Bob. Best to you. Love you, man.
I love you too, man. Thank you.
Always great to catch up with Spencer Tillman. Hey, back in the day, unbelievable running back at Oklahoma. You got to look it up on YouTube. He dives from the 5-yard line completely into the end zone.
They used to go over. You don't see that as much nowadays, Bob. Those running backs back in the 80s, 90s, they just go over the top.
Yeah, it was good stuff. All right, great running back, Spencer. Of course, he played for the Oilers and the 49ers as well. We got a pretty good running back for our high school spotlight player of the week. His name is Seth Davis, junior running back at Katy. He's already close to 1,600 yards this season. Got one more game left. Just a junior. He was the MVP of the state championship game last year. His brother split time with him. But Seth Davis, I couldn't pass up a chance to talk with Seth. We'll talk about this in the interview, but Seth was my Pee Wee football running back. So here's our high school spotlight player of the week, Seth Davis, running back for the Katy Tigers. All right, our high school spotlight player of the week, the one and only Seth Davis, Katy running back, junior running back over here at Katy High School. What a game last week against Katy Taylor. Was it 285 on 20 carries?
Yeah, 285 20 carries, 4 touchdowns.
Tell me about the game, man. How did it work out for you?
It was a good game. We just executed like we've been practicing hard all the time. So we got out there and we did our job, and now we're good.
So I know you always like to give props to your offensive line, man. They've been opening some big holes for you.
Yeah, I love my offensive line. Most of the touchdowns I scored, right up because of my offensive line. They made huge holes, and I just run through them.
You run through. Take me into your mind right now when they're calling your number and you know you're getting the ball. I mean, what are you seeing and what are you thinking?
I'm just doing my footwork that we always practice, and then I'm just watching my blocks. They push them out, go in, push them in, go out. And then, yes, sir.
Kind of like a zone block, man. Yeah. Wherever they move them, you're going.
Yes,
you're going.
Sir.
So you guys are undefeated, getting ready for the playoffs. Got one more game left. I mean, I know what the goal is out here.
Yes,
y'all want to win it all.
Yeah, again, two-peat.
Yeah, to get it again. So do y'all talk about that much, or what do y'all do?
We just take each week, we don't worry about what's ahead of us. We just take each week, we just work hard each week.
Yeah, and just let it happen.
Yeah,
let it happen. Now, who you finishing up with this week? Who you got?
We got Morton Ranch this week.
Okay, Morton Ranch, last regular season game.
Yes, sir.
And then you get ready for the playoffs. Let me ask you a few fun questions we always like to ask. I go, what's your favorite food? What do you like to eat?
Chicken Alfredo. It tastes so good. I love going to Olive Garden. They got the best chicken Alfredo.
They do.
Yes,
Plug for the Olive Garden right there from Seth Davis.
Yes,
you got a favorite sports movie?
Probably, I like The Longest Yard. That was funny with Adam Sandler.
Oh, the new Longest Yard.
Yeah.
The new, because, there was an old Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. That was the one I liked.
Yes, sir.
I always tell people I used to wear number 22 because that was the number that Burt Reynolds had in the Longest Yard.
Yes,
all right, so you got to give me some props because I was Seth's Pee Wee coach for a while with the New Territory Knights, man. That was some fun times, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was a great coach. And the New Territory Knights, we could have won it all, but we lost. But we still had a great year, and this is the best coach ever.
So I will tell you this. Seth shows up when he was like 8. I think you were 8. And your dad comes up and he goes, do you have room on your team? And I'm like, yeah, I'll bring him on. The very first practice, I looked at one of the other coaches and I'm like, man, we found a running back right here. 8 years old, man.
Yes,
You've
sir.
gotten a lot bigger.
Yes,
You've gotten a
sir.
lot bigger and grown up. So you're just a junior. You got a long way to go. Where's your brother playing at?
Arkansas State.
He's at Arkansas State?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
and I know you want to play at the next level.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, you got people talking to you already?
Yeah, Maryland, they just started reaching out. Cal, Rice, U of H, and Oklahoma State.
Oh, man, that's just the beginning.
Yes,
that's just
sir.
the beginning. You got another. All right, Seth Davis, our high school spotlight player of the week. Katy High School, they're headed for another state championship. They're going to work their way to it. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
All right. How about Seth giving his old coach some props there, huh?
Ooh, I tell you, they're going to be something moving into the playoffs. Look out for the old Tigers.
Yeah, they got that closing out with Morton Ranch and then into the playoffs. And the playoffs is their real season. We know that. Katy always looking for a championship. They won it last year. Looking for another.
Always looking for another.
Oh, yeah. And thanks to head coach Gary Joseph. Always, real quick before we go back to break, it was raining like crazy yesterday. So I texted him to tell him, hey, I'm going to be late. Are you out on the field? field because it's raining cats and dogs. I get out there. They're out there in the rain, and he saw me and came over there, and I go, Coach, I texted you to see if you were going to be out here on the field. And he goes, what do you mean? Of course we're going to be out here on the field. So thanks to Coach Joseph there. All right, hey, we've got the pros picks coming up. You got some good ones?
Oh, just like this fire right here, Bob. We're about to get hot this weekend.
All right, back with the pros picks right after this.
All right, team, your favorite pro here reporting live from the club. Now, look, in order to hit a pure golf shot, we have to do three things. We have to assess, strategize, and execute. And I'm going to tell you, the same three things apply if you're in the market for a loan. Woo! And after absolutely piping one, lucky for us, we have Jake Snortland here to tell us more about it.
Thanks, Jason. That is correct. Here at Triumph Lending, we assess, strategize, and execute in getting our borrowers the best deals possible. So feel free to give me a call. My number is 832-639-1455. And no matter if you're looking to purchase a home or refinance your current mortgage, I can get you the best deal out there today.
That's the golden trifecta for Triumph Lending. Give them a call today.
All right, back here on Huddle Up with Bob Slovak, the consummate pro, Jason Alexander. Time now for the pros picks. Last week, pretty good on the pros, huh?
Great on the pros, 3-0, undefeated on the NFL. A little bit lacking in college, but Bob, we've got it all sewn up.
You can't trust those 20-year-olds. Remember that.
I know. But I tell you, we've got some dynamite picks here for both college and NFL. 6 plays, looking to go 6-0 and really get on a heat check moving into the middle of November.
All right, here we go. Let's start with the NFL. Bears and Steelers. Bears getting 6.5. You like Chicago?
Sunday night football, I think 6.5. It might move to 7 with Pittsburgh coming off a big win against Cleveland here a couple weeks ago. They're getting Tomlin and Roethlisberger kind of feeling it out, trying to make one more push. I like Justin Fields in this spot. I think Chicago's going to be able to run the ball a little bit. Look for Justin Fields. Looked a little more comfortable. They almost upset San Francisco. I don't know if they win the game. They easily cover the 6.5. They might lose by 3, but we're going with the Bears and Justin Fields on Sunday night.
All right, Cowboys -10 against the Broncos. Dak's supposed to be back in, and I like that pick right there.
You just have to play him. We're going to be on the public side on this, which I don't like to live over there. But, look, Teddy Bridgewater, the Denver Broncos, they're a C team. They're a C-plus team in the NFL. The Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. You look out for them. Dak Prescott, nobody's going to stop their offense. They're going to put up at least 35. Denver just doesn't have enough firepower to hang with them. Dallas wins by 17-24. Should be an easy cover for us here on Huddle Up.
All right, Browns and Bengals. This one's always a dogfight. We know that. Browns +2.5. You're going to take Cleveland in this one. Bengals had a terrible game. I expect a bounce back.
And I think they will bounce back. I like Joe Burrow so much, and Cincinnati's going to make the playoffs. They are. But the Cleveland has to win. They have to win this game. I'm betting on their roster. I still think Cleveland has a better roster overall than the Bengals. Look for Baker Mayfield. Look, if they can catch the ball, if Jarvis Landry catches a few balls, everything's different. So I look for a heavy dose of Nick Chubb. Baker throws a couple bombs. Maybe Odell Beckham gets involved for the first time in over a month. But I think the Browns win by 3 and upset the Bengals on the road.
All right. Yeah, Beckham's going to be the wild card there if he even practices the rest of the week. So
Agreed.
We'll see what happens. All right, going over to college football now. First play, Liberty +9.5. You'll take Liberty against Ole Miss. This is going to raise some eyebrows.
This is blind faith you've got to have on me here. A little blind faith at Ole Miss. Look, coming off a big loss. If you don't think Lane Kiffin's going to try to run this up, I agree. But the only problem is they're just not going to be able to because the Liberty Flames, Malik Willis, is going to keep this thing close. Look for a possible upset. We're going to be catching 10 points. It's going to be close all the way to the fourth quarter, an easy cover. And I tell you, those old Rebels, they're going to be shaking their boots a little bit because the Liberty Flames are going to make this a ball game.
Ought to be fun. Be looking forward to that one. Georgia Tech +10.5 against Miami. You're going to take those Yellow Jackets.
We are, and this is really betting kind of the number. If we're going to catch this thing over 10 points, it's going to be 10.5 or 11. I'm not sold on Tyler Van Dyke. I'm not sold on the Hurricanes for that matter. They shouldn't be giving 10 points to anyone. I think Georgia Tech, they're going to run the ball pretty well. Miami's defense isn't that good. So I look for them to keep this close. They probably won't win the game, lose by 3 or 7. This is going to be one of our easier covers on Saturday.
All right, Big 12 matchup, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Cowboys given 3.5, but you like the Cowboys.
Tough loss from Oklahoma State last week. And I look at West Virginia. They upset Iowa State. They're on a little bit of a heat check, and they're at home. I kind of like betting this number a little bit with Oklahoma State coming in. I don't think West Virginia is that good to beat two top 15 ranked opponents been back-to-back weeks. I just don't. I really like Oklahoma State's roster. Sam Saunders, look out for him. I think he's going to light up the old Mountaineers. Go Cowboys.
Sounds like you got some red-hot picks for us for this week.
They're so hot the camera can't even take them, Bob. So to finish that, Oklahoma State, our last official play, but we got one more for all the viewers.
The late-night delight.
Oh, baby, on the islands, the Rainbow Warriors in Hawaii against San Diego State. Look, everybody's going to be scared a little bit. San Diego State likes to run the ball, but Hawaii's not going to be able to stop the run at all. Look for San Diego State to really punish them on the ground. Hawaii makes some big throws through the air. Over 46 if you need to catch up. Yeah. Or press that right pedal. Over 46 on the island Saturday night.
I like that bet. All right, that'll do it for Huddle Up for this week. Thanks for joining us here. Bob Slovak, the consummate pro, Jason Alexander, coming to you live from Carlton Woods. Man, you still got a big week out here.
Big week. And hey, looking forward to huddling up next week. BetUSA's back. So big time next Wednesday. Everybody enjoy the college football and NFL this weekend.
All right, for Jason Alexander, I'm Bob Slovak. We'll see you next time.